Hello, everyone. Welcome to interview number 6 of Nerve Control Week that we have been doing here at OC University. In case you guys are new, OC University is this community that is centered around OSU improvement. Our goal is to sort of close that gap between top players and the general community. So, in keeping with that theme, over the last week, we have been doing a series of interviews that all dive into the topic of nerve control. 6 individual interviews, and then at the end of the week, we will have one final wrap up interview to where we get multiple of the guests from the week together to talk about each other's points and sort of wrap up the topic for the week. So this is the 6th interview, individual interview, and with me today is Kablaze. Hello, hello.
Hello.
So for those who maybe are not super familiar with who you are, could you just give a brief introduction as to who you are as a player and what people probably know you as?
My name's Kablaze. I've been playing Osu for 200 years. Um, I play everything, and I play in tournaments. And I'm not a dirty farmer.
That is so respectable and incredible and
Thank
amazing.
you.
Um, so yeah, I think I'm actually really interested in hearing your, I guess, like methods of controlling your nerves, because from what I've seen, it seems like you have some pretty unique mentalities, especially going into tournament
Oh,
matches, which I will definitely ask a lot about
okay.
towards later on in this discussion. But first, I want to start very basic and just sort of talk about what exactly is nerve control in your opinion.
Um, so in my opinion, nerve control starts with mitigation. So, essentially, you're not gonna have an issue if you don't have nerves in the first place, right? So,
Right.
when you're going into a match, you need to uh, figure out how to. Okay, so yes, obviously mitigation means you need to mitigate nerves. But I think, do you want me to go into like methodology at all at
Oh
this
yeah,
point,
yeah.
or okay?
This is your
Usually,
stage.
if I were like nervous for a match, like say last week I was up against Utami in NAT, I was very nervous for that match. Like leading up to it, I was probably more nervous than during the actual match. And so the approach was definitely um, practice, 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 practice. Drill every map into your head so that there is no uncertainty. Because uncertainty, I feel like uncertainty and like expectations, like expecting a specific score, but not being certain that you can achieve that score. So if you want
Oh,
to FC every map in a pool, then it's gonna make you anxious.
right.
Um, Setting realistic expectations, I think you can do that through just practice. You get an idea of how you perform on every map. You can get a little bit better over the course of the week at every map. And it builds that certainty, that confidence that you're going to need. Uh, if you have a plan, that's great because you can kind of play within the lines of that. Only problem is, if you go off the plan, then what is there to do? It's
Oh,
kind of
all right. So plan as in like your match plan for like what you're gonna pick
yeah,
and things
yeah.
like that.
Pick spans,
Right.
how you think you'll do compared to the other player. It's really good if you can like plot all that out, but you also have to be flexible, and that's where the practice comes in.
So mitigation.
Yeah,
So I guess let me just try to like summarize what I've heard so
yeah, yeah,
far.
yeah.
So I guess mitigation in the sense of like not letting the nervous feelings start in the first place. Like that's your goal. Um,
Yeah, the goal is to not be nervous in the first place. Yes.
okay. So rather than like getting nervous and then like just trying to not make it affect you, your goal really is to just not give yourself a reason to even feel nervous in the first place. Which I guess
Oh, yeah.
is sort of what you mean by mitigation in that sense. Um,
That is, yeah, what I mean. Sometimes you can't always mitigate, but
right. And so in that sense, like having clear expectations of how something is going to go, especially a tournament match or something like that. Um, and like just practicing a lot so that you feel more confident in your abilities and like how things are going to go. Just removing that layer of
hmm
uncertainty. Is that something you'd agree with?
absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of the approach.
Oh, so I do want to explore how you mentioned that like leading up to your 1v1 match against Utami,
hmm
you were more nervous than like during the match itself. And something that I've noticed about you in particular is it seems like you tend to talk to yourself a lot, like sort of out loud, um, during the match, sort of sometimes like reassuring yourself
Oh,
or um, things like that. Is that like something that really helps for you with nerve control?
I actually don't know. I don't think about it, but maybe like sometimes it can be worse though. If you I don't know. It's just me saying whatever I'm thinking. I
Oh,
don't think it's particularly like tied to nerves or anything.
okay.
It might just be for the stream, honestly.
Oh,
Now
that's
I think
right.
about it.
I um I actually I'll touch on that
Oh,
a bit later
okay.
about streaming, but I do want to sort of explore like how how exactly do you think you're able to like shut off like the sort of pressure that you felt leading up to that match, and then like once you get into the match itself, like you're able to just shut off those that like anxiety about the match and just focus on doing your best. Like, do you have any strategies that help you
Mm.
with that?
So recently, I've been employing a strategy that basically, it's really straightforward. It basically just relies on not caring at all, which you can afford to do if you've practiced. I feel like you still have to put forward the effort, but once you get into the match, there's nothing more that you can do. Uh, if you allow yourself to get anxious and overthink and worry about the results of the match, then you're going to be way more nervous than you would have been otherwise. And so just you kind of have to find a way to let go. I think meditation kind of is in the same vein,
Oh,
but
okay. Right. I
I'm
know
losing my
that
train of thought.
um Bubbleman mentioned very similar things to you as well, so that's actually really
Okay.
interesting. Yeah. Really just about like playing, like focusing on the present and just playing um
hmm
with like sort of the cards that you I don't know, that you've
Yeah,
developed for yourself
especially
through practice.
um if yeah, if you've practiced a lot, then you can just play like you just have to tell yourself, yeah, just like in practice.
Right.
Let's just run this like a normal practice run.
So
Um
could you elaborate a bit more on like not caring in that sense? Like
oh,
caring enough to practice a lot and learn everything, but not caring enough to like get in over your head during the match.
I think once a match starts, since there's so little that you can do other than just play your best, um there's not, I don't know. Huh. I mean, I'm not really sure how to shut down like, that worry that you have. Sometimes it'll go through the match. Like I think during OWC, um I would get into the match and I would have these um expectations. I knew a lot of people were watching, and so I'd be like, fuck. Um I'd start over focusing, or I'd start holding my breath, or I'd start doing all these things that I wouldn't have done in practice regardless. So I don't think it's something that's like fail proof, but I don't know. How do you tell someone to stop caring? Like, how do you describe that?
um
Um,
That is a good question.
I,
Uh, well,
because
oh, you go. Sorry.
no, I don't think I had anything to add.
Oh, well, I
Thank
do
you.
want to explore, since you mentioned OWCs, something that I was interested in asking you is like, as someone, because I think you've been more or less a relevant name as a top player since maybe 2014, 2015. And I am, because especially I think with your history being a top player for so long and then finally making it into the World Cup in 2020. Um, so that being your first year after so long, like did you have any extra pressure on yourself or put any extra pressure on yourself sort of because of that, like finally getting to make it into the World Cup?
Mm. So the thing is, the goal all along was just to get into the World Cup. Like when I started, the USA wasn't really a powerhouse or anything, and so the idea was I play in a World Cup. That's it. Yeah, winning wasn't part of the equation, and so
Right.
I set these really low expectations of myself, where I'm just gonna go in, I'm just gonna play in the World Cup, and then whatever happens, happens. If I win, that would be cool.
I see.
But there was a lot of pressure from it being so long. I did kind of. I think people definitely had expectations, and so I didn't want to. You know, half of that team was new. There's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure, especially in grand finals, where it's like, I really haven't been in a situation like this before. It's completely different. It has a completely different feeling from anything else. And so, um,
Do you find that like you sort of had to control your nerves a little differently in that situation?
yes, yeah, it was almost like I don't, I really don't know what happened because when these big matches happen, like perennial semifinals, WC Grand Finals, or Corsair's semis last year, my brain just goes like blank. I don't really. I think it's probably just because of the odds. In those semifinals matches, it was us against floating up or us
Oh,
against like the nation. It's like these big name teams where it's
right.
like
Those other
what's Goliath?
contenders for first
Yeah,
place, right?
and and you kind of don't expect to win them, so you can kind of go in with a really lax uh, approach. You can practice and all that. You're not going to give it up easily, but you just want to put up a fight, right? Everything is on the line for them. Nothing's on the line for you, and that's where the expectations part comes in for just general matches.
Oh, and that also
Practice part,
that kind of sounds like
hmm?
not caring as well to an extent.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because literally in that situation, it makes it easy. All that you can do is try your best. You're not expecting to win, but there's the possibility, and so you just need to put up a fight. I think that mindset is kind of what I mean by not caring.
Oh, so
But
basically like I guess ex expecting not to win, but knowing that you have
yeah,
the ability to like change that. Like the default outcome that you're expecting is that you don't win, but
hmm
and so in that sense you sort of um I mean I don't know. I guess like one way to word it is like you haven't actually won the match until it's over. So
hmm
in that sense, you can't really be worried about um like maintaining or like let's say you get a lead or something or the infamous sort of like one more point fallacy, so to speak. Um, like get because is that something you've experienced where you're 1 point away from winning and then things just kind of fall apart? Either you get complacent or things like that.
Man, I think last year in NAT semifinals losers bracket against like Fiery or someone, I had like a 5-2 lead or something. And I was like, all right, that's it. I just got to put a point on the board,
Right.
and I just mispicked. And
No.
I mean, that does like mess with your mental, like regardless. Um, I think especially if you think you have a chance of winning the match, then you know, um, you can easily get reverse swept if your mental just breaks. There's not much that you can do about that. I mean, you could probably try to move your mental to that approach, the other approach, where you're just going to try your best from this point on. But that's kind of hard, especially
Yeah,
if you're emotional. You can really get wrapped up.
and especially I think it's sometimes very hard to let go of that feeling
Yeah.
that like you haven't won. Oh, like just don't care, or like you haven't won the match until it's over, or something like that. But that definitely, I think like being 1 point away is very hard to get out of your mind. Um,
Hmm.
I know I've heard some players give this advice, and I'm not sure if it's something that you've sort of
No.
experimented with as well. But like pretending that you actually need one more point than you really do. Like let's say
Oh.
you need 6 points to win, but once you have 5 points,
Hmm.
you tell yourself like I actually need 7 points to win. Like it's not even one more point left. I still have to do my best.
I think a lot of times I don't even look at the score, and so like
Oh,
I won't even realize a match is over until it's won or lost.
I have never thought of that. That is very
Yeah, you can
interesting.
just legit just not look at the multi
Oh my god.
and just play, each song as it comes.
That is powerful. I mean, I feel like I guess that's more viable in team tournaments where,
Yeah, definitely.
right, like let's say you don't have to be the one picking every map, or like telling the referee which
Hmm.
songs you want to pick. So yeah, that is very interesting though. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, I could see the application of 1v1 though, where you just stick to the plan no matter what,
Yeah.
regardless of how the other player's performing.
Do you ever find that like let's say like halfway through the match, like your strategy of what maps you were gonna pick hasn't really been working? Do you sometimes like get like do you try to just stick through it, and like do you tend to get more nervous because of like your plan not
Um,
working, or like uh, uh, how do you approach like when to change your plan and when to just like stick through it even if you're not very comfortable with your plan anymore?
I think the worst part is actually like a positive surprise. If you end up doing something that you didn't expect, it kind of makes you think that, hey, maybe I can shuffle things around a little bit and things can get messy. Um, but as far as like, huh, the plan not working, you just like flub a point or something.
Right.
Um, I think you can usually just chalk that down to like like it's just a bad run or something, or if the
Oh,
other player performed outside of expectations, performed way better, then there's not much you can do about that. You can, if the plan has been working up until that point, you can just keep going.
oh, okay, I see. So, and I suspect that like because of that sort of approach that you just kind of stick through it, and I guess justify shortcomings or like bad runs on your end or good runs on their end,
Hmm.
and try not to like let it make you feel uncertain about the plan that you had been, preparing for that match.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the practice comes in as well. Is you're so well practiced on an entire pool that like at that point anything could come up and it would still be reasonable. Like you're already prepared for it. Any contingency. That's really the thing.
So I find it actually interesting. Well, I know, especially from your perspective, because I find that you tend to practice the map pool like a lot, especially if you really care about a match. Um, but in the whole vein of not caring about a match, do you sometimes find like what do you think about like just not practicing a map pool at all, or only like very barely, and like trying to just not put too much pressure on yourself regarding that match, and playing well to the point where like you don't really practice the map pool that much.
I mean, I think that just puts you at an inherent disadvantage, like lack of exposure. You're going to play worse than if you had practiced.
Oh,
most of the
okay.
times. I mean, for most people, right?
Right.
So that should really be a reason for anxiety, no? If you're going into a pool, you don't know what the AR8 hidden looks like. Uh, good luck.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Right. Okay. I see where you're coming from now. Um, okay, so actually there is a question that someone asked on the forum that was
mm,
specifically targeted to you. Um,
no?
or someone named Lako, Lako,
Mm,
says, I remember you saying you drop accuracy sometimes to avoid getting nervous. I'm wondering if you
no.
also use that in tournaments, or is it a solo only thing when going for scores? Or do you even do that at all anymore, since that was like over 4 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2017. I do a variant now where it's not so much dropping accuracy, but I have skins with no 100s in them, where the 100s and 50s are just transparent.
Oh,
And
right,
so, like, the worry is not on AC. It's not going to obscure your vision. It's not, the priority in tournaments is hold combo at all costs.
right.
Um, and so, if you have it like that, there's just no AC pressure on you, especially in like team tournaments. It's really good. You just have to combo. It really simplifies things.
Do you so I guess like relating to I guess like combo advantages in tournaments, do you have any strategies for like not getting nervous like in the middle of a map, like when the break comes and the leaderboard shows up or something?
Um, I think usually when the leaderboard shows up, it kind of dictates my attitude for the rest of the song. I'm guilty. So if the other team, actually, it's kind of like the inverse of what you'd think, where if the other team's at an advantage and like maybe my teammates have broken or I broke really early or something, um, it just takes all the pressure off of you immediately because it's just really unlikely that you're going to win the point at all. You can just play as normal and it'll be fine. But if you have like three full combos and the other team uh, dropped a bunch and you're like a quarter of the way through the song or something,
Right.
that's a lot of pressure on you to keep performing and match your teammates' performances.
Oh, yeah. Do you have any, I guess, ways that you, or like things that you sort of tell yourself so that that doesn't sort of overwhelm you going into the rest of the map?
Um, not not particularly. No, I I don't know. See, I don't. I think there's not a whole lot that goes through my head at those points unless I'm like in a really bad mental place where I'm just super focused on results. Like I need to hold combo from this point onwards. Um, in the ideal mental situation, it would just be you're not thinking about anything.
Oh,
You
I see.
you look at the leaderboard and it's like okay, whatever, just keep playing.
So in that sense, it really just does come down to knowing knowing yourself and knowing your limits through the practice that you got on that map pool.
Yeah, I think the less that you have to think in map, the better. The less that you have to think in match in total.
Right. Oh, I see. So in um I guess like if you need to think about like making sure you know how the next section goes, then that can like
Yeah.
put a lot of pressure on you. But if you already know exactly how the map goes or like the next section goes, then
Hmm.
you can just sort of I guess um not not feel so much pressure on you, and you just feel confident that
Hmm.
your practice is going to I guess pay off in those situations.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think even down to mind blocks. Like when you mind block during practice or something, like you're not even going to expect to hit that in the match, and so it doesn't really make a difference. It's probably something that you would have had trouble with anyway if you had not practiced.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, the only pressure is to do everything else that's easy, and then maybe you'll hit that pattern. Who knows? That would be nice, right?
Oh, okay. So
It does elevate a lot of expectation.
or what do you mean by elevate expectation?
Or I mean, like alleviate. I
Oh,
think is
oh,
what I meant to say.
okay, right. um, right. Okay, that's actually really interesting how like practicing the map pool, or like practicing to the point where like you know the spots where you're most likely to miss, so that um well, first of all, then if you're able to practice that section and like stop missing there, then that's good. But like just understanding how you do it on like certain parts of maps, so that like you like if you do end up missing there in the match, it's more a feeling of that like that's how practice went too, and like
Yeah, it's
right,
an expectation. You know, you figure you're gonna miss there.
right.
Anything more is a bonus.
Oh, okay. So then even if you do hit it, then it's just sort of it's just like a random gift from
Yeah.
OSU.
I mean, I think a lot of people. This is kind of going off on a tangent, but I feel like uh, in USC we usually get a lot of less experienced players to fill our slots.
Right, and that is
Which is,
for those who are not sure, USC being the United States Cup, where you play for your United States state. Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. I mean, since it's a states cup, you have a smaller pool of players to pick from, and so you get less experienced players. And they really want to perform. They really want to put in uh they want to how do I put this? Yeah, they want to perform, right?
Right.
And that's a pressure. That's a really big pressure
That they put on
that people
themselves.
seem to have. Is yeah, if I don't perform, I'm letting my team down. Um, which just generally isn't the case. Like the best tournament players will have like really bad days, and won't be able to perform at their peak. Um, but I think that's the source of a lot of players' nerves is um, just worrying about that. When really all you need to do is show up. Like you need to show up and try your best. The misses actually kind of don't really matter.
Yeah, I find that some players get very critical about like their own performance, especially in team tournaments. Every time they lose a map that they were in for,
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, if only I didn't miss. If only like, you know, I mean, if only anyone
Um,
didn't miss, right? But um, yeah, I definitely okay. So from what it sounds like, you tend to notice a lot of, especially newer players to the tournament environment, that they tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves, and that they basically create this sort of expectation in their head that their teammates are expecting good performance from them. Is that something you would agree with?
oh yeah, totally.
And
Even though that might not be the case,
right,
you just need someone to fill a slot or something.
yeah.
Do their best.
Do you have any, I guess, tips for those sorts of players that tend to get stuck in those mindsets?
I think all that I can really say is that you, I mean, your performance doesn't have to be pristine. Like, I don't know how to get that through someone's head other than just telling them, you don't need to be perfect. Perfect players don't exist. Vaccine misses
Yeah.
in tournament. It's just how it goes. And so, you can't think of it like that. You can't think of it as you being the burden that holds down the entire team. That's just putting way too much pressure on yourself. You just have to, practice, try your best. I don't know what else you can say about that, though. That's the
No,
problem. What
I,
kind of actual insight?
I think that that was actually quite a valid answer. I do want to explore, since we've been talking a lot, especially about tournament nerves. Do you find that you manage nerves differently between solo play and tournament play?
Oh, I'm horrific at managing nerves in solo. I can't farm at all. I'll get like halfway through a space stream map and I'll start like shuddering.
Oh, that is interesting. Um, because at least I guess, but before I ask that question, I guess my guess was that that sort of mindset of like just practicing a map and knowing how it goes would at least transfer in some respect? Or do you think it does sometimes for solo play, or do you think it's actually different for you?
I think my expectations in solo play are just way out, like just terrible. You know, because I think of myself as I probably have this really unhealthy habit, but I think of myself as a little bit underranked, and so it feels like I really should be able to do it, but I can't. You know, I feel like it's probably more in line with reality that I'm simply my skill cap is in line with my rank,
Right.
but it I have this really high expectation of myself, this unreasonably high expectation of myself to perform in solo, and so I think it's along the same lines. You know, you would manage it in the same way of just like focusing on the gameplay, focusing on the reading and stuff, and if you hold combo, the only proper way to continue is to move forward is to not care, not care that you're holding combo, not think about how much PP you'll get from this, uh, and just keep going.
Right, right.
Uh, I think if you're really satisfied with like the feeling that you get from hitting space dreams and like jumps and stuff, if that is why you play the game fundamentally, I think you'll find it a lot easier to do this, um, because you'll just be focusing on the sensations of gameplay rather than the actual results that you derive from it.
Oh, that
I think
okay.
that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that is very interesting actually. Like shifting like the enjoyment that you get from like getting a score that you like versus like hitting a pattern that you think is like satisfying or something like that, or some like hitting a pattern that makes you proud, I guess, without even
Yeah.
caring about like what the result screen will say or like how much PP you might get from hitting that pattern. That is interesting. I've
Mm-hmm.
never thought of it never thought of it that way. Um so I I do, I guess, want to talk a bit about your um background or like history as a solo player
Mm.
in setting scores, and maybe the um different issues that you may have had with nerve control in the past that don't really seem to affect you anymore these days, and sort of why you think you were able to get over those reasons of getting nervous.
Okay. Um. So I'm trying to think where to start. I think I used to be very cocky. I used to be a very arrogant player. I used to think very highly of myself as far as my skill and what I could achieve, and how I compared to other players. And so, are we talking mostly solo right now?
Um, I think mostly
Or
solo, but if you have any tournament applications or like I mean, yeah, it can be solo or tournament for sure.
okay, um, I think the expectation was to be at number one, right? To be the best player in the world. Um, and that's obviously unreasonable, but I think if you set your bar there, um, if you're completely confident that you can achieve that, then everything leading up to best player in the world status scores is like negligible. It doesn't matter at all.
Right, just sort of like a
You know,
stepping stone.
yeah, it's a stepping stone, of course. Um, I think the same works in tournaments where if you really think that you're better than everyone else in the tournament, like if you truly believe that, then you're just gonna have no problems with nerves. Everyone's gonna be like a speck. The problem with that is that it's really hateable and it's really like it's a disgusting mindset. It's kind of it's delusional. It's founded on delusion,
Yeah. Oh,
and so
I think that sounds like ultimately it sort of stems from confidence in some sense.
mhm.
Um, is that something that you would say like really helped you with nerves in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get nervous in the same way that I do now because I was just so confident that I will play in the World Cup. I will get like top 20 global.
Right, and
It's
this
just
was back in like maybe
not a
2015.
question. That was like 2014, 2015. Yeah.
Right, because I do remember, you. I think we're mostly known for like really competitive hidden hard rock scores against the likes of top USA hard rock players such as Silver 15 and
Oh my
Karu,
god.
right?
Yeah.
So being in, I guess, like such a, I guess, like spotlight when it comes to like your scores and like people sort of following that competition, because I feel like things like that were a lot more common in 2015, where
Hmm.
people would like follow each other's scores and like who's sniping who's number ones
Yeah.
and things like that. Um, is that something that like would ever affect you as far as like your nerves, or what do you think about that?
So I would generally have this idea of me being superior to everyone else, as as previously stated. So if I couldn't do something immediately, I would just buckle down and keep trying until I did it. Um, I think literally the only barrier I had back then was time, because I
Oh,
was picking things up pretty fast, and I had like really really high confidence that I could achieve pretty much whatever, but I didn't have the time to like actually, to actualize that potential. And so I don't think nerves wise it had like any effect. No, I don't think um seeing someone snipe one of my scores is like, I guess I still get this drive where someone snipes my score. Kirby Mix has been target sniping me recently.
oh
It's
gosh.
freaking me out, but um or at least I think he has, but it's more of like a drive. Like I'm gonna show you who's boss. I'm gonna
Oh,
put you in your place. And so it's not so much nerves. You can do it, but
so
it's
in
just a matter of.
in
Hmm?
solo play, especially at that time, um, I guess you really banked on your confidence as a player, um,
Hmm.
as far as like not getting nervous. Or I mean, probably at the time you didn't even think about whether or not
Yeah,
to get nervous. You were just like, yeah, I'm just a beast. I'm
yeah.
kablaze. I'm so awesome.
That, yeah, I kind of wish I was still like that because it was so much more conducive to like successful gameplay.
So
Now it's all drag. Oh, I'm so bad. Oh, I can't. Why can't I play this pattern?
So I think like between then and now, what exactly do you think like made you not really feel that way anymore, or like
Um,
have that same sort of confidence in your ability, other than like you mentioned earlier, that whole not wanting to seem so arrogant and cocky as a public figure, I guess.
I think um I think I grew up. I think I like my brain developed and I started to, I kind of I think there was like a big turning point in 2017 where I had like wrecked shop in NAT in 2017 and I was in grand finals, winners grand finals,
Right.
and Toy came from losers bracket, and I like practiced the hell out of that pool and I just got destroyed. Like 6-4 the first match, and then bracket reset to 6-1.
Wow.
And my confidence was instantly shattered because I had been competing with Toy for years at that point,
Right. I
like as my
remember.
main rival, I'd say. And you know, since we were like ranked 5K ish, and that
Oh my
was just
God.
like the final nail in the coffin. I was like, man, I really do need to rethink some things. I'm not quite as good as I think I am.
Oh no.
Um, and I feel like anyone, if they play long enough and they have that kind of mindset, they're gonna have it shattered at some point. Some people will be able to put it back together, but I just couldn't. I spent like 2 years, 2 or 3 years before I was like decently confident, like confident enough to win a tournament match.
A match
It
or
was
a
a really
tournament?
bad, like a match. I just started like no showing and stuff after
Oh,
that.
I see.
I was just broken.
No.
No.
So, uh, I guess like during that match itself, do you remember if nerves were really playing a factor to you, or did you
Nerves.
still sort of have that confidence?
It was the only match I'm pretty sure up until that point that I had actually had nerves in.
Oh, I see.
yeah, it was kind of like this culmination in my mind. I was like, yes, okay, this is big. This is where I establish, you know, my dominance over North America, and it didn't come to fruition.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know how that so fun, like that fundamentally changed the way I viewed my skill, but it did. It was just kind of like a wake up call.
Wow. So
You're
the
human.
so from what it sounds like, the story pretty much is like, so you started playing in maybe 2013? I don't remember exactly.
Uh, yeah, late 2013, like mid late 2013.
Okay. Yeah, so from around there, and especially as you improved quickly, um from there you had this sort of feeling of confidence that sort of prevented you from being nervous in the first place. Um
Mm-hmm.
that led all the way up until mid 2017 during NAT Grand Finals, um, where you had your moment of defeat, your how do I word this, like mid season like character development, um,
Yeah.
and then like so from 2017 on until like maybe 2019, you had this like sort of rut of like basically the complete opposite, confidence
Mm-hmm.
wise. Um, So I can't exactly remember if you were very active during that time as a player.
From 2018 to 2019.
Right.
I've tried, but I was stuck on a laptop too, which is it started. I was trying to keep up with the big hidden hard rock players at the time. They're really taking off in like late
Yeah.
2018 or late 2017, early 2018.
Yeah.
And my computer was lag spiking on like FC Honesty Hidden Hard Rock runs,
Oh,
FC like Sidetrack Day Hidden Hard Rock runs on like the slider stream,
that's unlucky.
and it just crushed me. I swear I choked that map like 5 times with FC on the slider stream.
And so okay, um so the whole laptop era was
Laptop era was just beating my mental into the ground mercilessly
no.
until there was nothing left.
But from what it sounds like, I guess around 2019, you were sort of able to pick it back up, and now from what it sounds like, you're sort of in this neutral spot. Um,
Yeah, I think early 2020 was like my complete like bottom, um as far as mental, as rock bottom, where I played a match against Fiery in Gaucho Cup, I think, and I just got clean swept. I just didn't even play half of the maps,
oh
and
no,
so frustrated. Yeah, I was trying to get back into tournaments,
right? I
and
remember. Um,
yeah, you know,
and
you kind of realize you're bad, and everyone else has passed you.
uh, um, So, as far as like nerves during that
Yeah.
time, like is that something that you sort of felt as well as like, what were you like? Oh, living in the shadow of Kablaze from the past, and like did you have this like expectation that you have to live up to the legacy, so to speak?
Well, I think part of it was that there was always that chance that my hardware would just fuck up and it would break my score, um, and so there was always that like doubt looming over, where at any moment it kind of just doesn't matter if I play properly, um, and then there was also this feeling of like I'm still good, I'm still the best, where I was playing like I was just leaderboard farming, and I thought it was like the coolest shit ever. I thought I was so awesome, and the PP system was just broken.
In
And
2020?
like in like 2019, even
Oh,
where I thought I was just like the hottest shit, and yeah, uh, in reality, I was just like a leaderboard consistency farmer, like doing absolutely nothing notable. So I
oh,
think a lot of it's in your perception of yourself too. Just I mean, as far as improvement in general, where if you think you're better than you are, then you're gonna stagnate. eventually.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I think like another perspective to see that is like if you think you're better than you are, then like that sort of like drive to keep pushing yourself will always be there, so to speak. Or what do you think about that?
I maybe. I guess it depends on like why you think that you're so good. I don't really know. I don't think I'm too qualified to talk about that specific mindset anymore though. Because
Oh,
I think really what it boiled down to was like I was young. My my reasoning was less developed, and so um, I was more prepared to cast aside logic for just how I felt.
for the sake of being the best in the world.
Yeah, just like nothing will stop me. Absolutely nothing. Not carpal tunnel
Oh,
or
uh-oh. um, so it okay, that's actually very interesting because I think a lot of players tend to like maybe like have a lot of issues with nerves from like early on in their career, and then like over time they sort of um learned to like
uh,
fix those problems. But what I'm sort of hearing from you is that you sort of have the opposite situation where like when you were a new player, or like relatively new, you were like very confident to the point where nerves weren't even like a question for you. Um, and that you would just not get nervous at all. And um, then you sort of over this whole developmental arc, you um like found like as that confidence sort of fell apart, you sort of started to develop nerves later on in your career.
I think that's a proper way to unpack that.
Okay, and so do you? Okay, so then in that sense, you've sort of then more recently found ways to um like try to mitigate those nerves, mostly in the form of um like what being well practiced, especially in tournaments, and just not really caring, especially I guess not caring about the result
Mm-hmm.
of what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I've been trying to substitute the old like blind confidence with like an actual founded confidence. Something that seems reasonable.
Oh, that okay, and then that comes in the form of practice, I
Mm-hmm.
suspect. That is
Yeah.
interesting. Um, so I think can we boil this down overall to confidence? Would you say is like one of the big things that really helps with nerve control?
Um, Confidence in not thinking, but I don't know how better to describe the not thinking part because a blank mind is so valuable. It's incredibly valuable in a tournament, or I mean, even like in solo. If you're not thinking, then you're just not gonna get nervous.
Oh, right, because not thinking, I guess, because thinking in general tends to lead to
Yeah,
thinking about the result for the
yeah.
most
You'll
part.
think about the result. You'll overthink about what your hands are doing, or you shouldn't be thinking about what your hands are doing at all when you play.
Yeah, I do agree. But do you find sometimes that when you do get nervous that you um tend to like overthink a lot, or especially overfocus?
Yeah,
Is that something that
yeah.
that
My
you've
reading.
experienced? Right. Um, is that something you can I guess maybe touch on, or like do you have any advice for overfocusing?
Um, for over focusing, let me think. Because you need to look away from the screen sometimes. You really need to just like stand up or like lay down on your bed and just like stare at the ceiling for a bit. I've been doing that recently. Like when I get like frustrated or really nervous in a match or something, just give it a minute. You know, don't care about the
Oh,
position. Don't care about where you are in the match. Just like kind of empty it out a little bit
just
and then
a
come back.
take a timeout,
Hmm? Yeah.
basically. I
Hmm.
remember some tournament where I was in grand final from losers, and after, so I won the first match, and then between the bracket reset, I just like, because you get like 5 or 10 minutes, right? And
Yeah.
I just spent that, like, I think I walked downstairs, I walked back upstairs, and then I like lie down in my bed,
Yeah.
and then I came back and played the rest of the match. But um, yeah, point is, definitely do not disagree with that. Um,
Yeah.
as a way to almost like similar to meditation in the sense that you just kind of
Hmm.
clear your mind of what's going on.
Yeah. And just think about, you know, the realities of the situation. What's in your control and what you can do about that.
Ooh, okay. So we are approaching, I think, the 50-minute mark. I do want to make some time
Hmm.
for viewer questions. So,
Okay.
um, yeah. So those of you listening on Discord, there's a text thread called Live Chats, where you guys can ask your questions there, and um, those of you looking at the chat, if you see a question that you would also want to be asked, if you could react to it with a thumbs up emoji, that would help us pick things out for sure. But while questions are being posted, Kablaze, do you have any, I guess, miscellaneous things that you sort of wanted to bring up about nerve control, or maybe just a summary of some practical nerve control tips as a whole?
Okay. Practice. Don't go into matches blind. That's just dumb. Unless you're like Baxter or Bubble Man or someone, I don't know, someone crazy. Um, it's I don't know. Sometimes there's just not all that much that you can do. Sometimes you'll be swept up by your emotions. That's okay. I mean, you just have to try and do better next time. Be more prepared. Try to um, I don't know, anything that makes your worries lessen in magnitude is going to be good.
Okay.
So, if you're feeling confident, yeah, I guess it just comes down to confidence, right? Confidence, and don't just shut your brain off. That's it. That is my
Oh.
summary. That's my whole summary.
And I think a bit more specifically confidence in this in the form of practice and knowing yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, know your limits.
Oh, um,
You're gonna have limits. You gotta know them.
right. Um, okay, so first question from
Mm.
Quill. Um, it says, Kablaze, you said that you have a skin with transparent 100s and 50s. Does that ever give you the urge to look at your accuracy all the time? And if so, how do you cope with it?
Usually when I'm using that skin, I'll have the I'll have the UR bar and the overlay off. So Shift Tab. I'll just like turn off the UI. Um, and then it's completely eliminates the element. It's not even something that you can think about. You just need to worry about having your cursor over the note and clicking the note.
Oh, yeah, and so I guess especially in tournament play, would you say, I guess, like just convincing yourself that accuracy doesn't really matter in the first place?
Yeah,
Which
not even a factor. Just play whack-a-mole.
right, and I mean, ultimately, it kind of doesn't. Um,
Hmm. Yeah,
but
unless you break, but just don't break.
that is so true. um, but I think especially if you've given the map enough practice, um,
Hmm.
to the point where you um
You already have it ingrained.
right,
Yeah,
you already
the
have the
rhythm
accuracy
section.
ingrained exactly. Um, okay,
Yeah.
so a question from Fruit says,
Hmm.
when you brought up having a blank mind, have you ever just like shut off because your mind was too blank? This happens to me like once a week, and I was just wondering.
I'm trying to think. Usually if that happens, I'll just be really tired. I'll be trying to employ that mindset, and I'll just stop trying. Like in total, my hand will go slack, and you know, It's I don't know. It's such a tricky thing to talk about because everyone's mental experience is gonna be different. But for me, yeah, I mean, and when I'm tired, I'll have something like that. I'll just stop trying, and that's when you know you've taken it too far. Is when you just start missing notes for no reason other than you didn't try.
Oh, so I guess in the sense of like being too tired or like I guess going beyond the line of like where when you should have stopped. Like when your
Mhm.
mind does go over blank, then that's one of those signs that you've like sort of passed your limit for that session.
Probably.
D-
That's my interpretation of it.
Do you ever find that that happens in tournament matches sometimes, where you sort of like you try to focus or like you try to empty your mind so much that it just like loops 360 and then your brain just like explodes and
Yeah,
like yeah.
I think you were wait, was it semis in Centauria? I think I just like fell apart recently. I've been playing for it was
Right.
like 10 p.m. or something, and I was just
Yeah.
like I was dead.
I think it
And
was
so I tried to empty my mind and it just didn't work. Yeah, I was just stuck trying my best, but my best was trash, and that kind of sucks. You practice. I practiced a little bit for it, but there's no way that I was meeting my expectations. Just you need to be well rested. Um, or
oh.
you run the risk of that happening. It's impossible to reap the rewards of practice because you're gonna underperform no matter what.
Yeah, so part of tournament preparation is definitely getting your necessary amount of sleep. And I guess those sorts of external factors. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, okay, let's see. A question from Icarus says, "How do you process or deal with bad losses?" For me, the mixture of confidence going into a match and performing poorly and losing takes me a long time to get over, makes me perform much worse in following matches. Do you experience this? And if so, what do you do to get through it or stop thinking about it?
Um.
So I guess like being very confident going into a match and then like just getting, I guess, shafted.
Yeah. I think really all you can do is use it as like something to invigorate you and something to like motivate you to do even better. Because if you clearly didn't match your own expectations, but you practiced and you you have that potential. It doesn't really reflect on you as a player at all. It really just means that the circumstances were not in your favor. There are some things that you can do about that. There's some things that you just can't. And going forward, just persist. If necessary, work harder. Um, and keep at it. Keep at it with a good mindset. It's easy. It's really easy to fall into like man, I suck. Uh, I'm trying to I'm going through something like this right now, where I put like an entire week of my life into that Utami match, and then I lost it on the tiebreaker. And part of it was just that like recently my finger control has been completely off for like 170 to 200 BPM streams. It's really frustrating, but like I'm just doubling down on stream practice and practicing pools properly. Or I can't right now because there's a power outage. But um, yeah, I mean, just you have to use it to motivate you. I mean, it's the same with any loss, right? If you get bogged down in it, then it's gonna stop you in your tracks. That's just a life thing, I think.
Yeah. Um, one thing that you mentioned that I want to ask a bit about
Mm,
during that is just saying that just to I guess keep a good mindset. I know a lot of people when they hear that tend to not really be sure what to think, I guess. Like
mm.
so can you talk a bit more about like what exactly is a good mindset in your
What
opinion?
constitutes a good mindset? Oh man. So I feel like I said something about people's mentals being different. Um, I can't say exactly what a good mindset will be for everyone. I can say what mine is, which is generally just um, you know, not focusing on what I. Okay, so you do need to focus on what you did wrong, right? To a certain degree, you always need to look back and be like, yeah, I messed that up.
Right.
Uh, but you also need to include the part where this is how I improve this. There's potential for improvement here. I can do better next time. Um, and you need to really try and believe it. Uh, Fake it if necessary. Um, but I don't know beyond that. Beyond that, what constitutes a good mindset?
So
Damn, that's a hard question.
it is definitely a hard question. I don't blame you. But I guess in that sense, um, oh, what was I going to say? Um, oh, right. So when you're reflecting on a poor performance or something like that reflection has to
Hmm.
lead into a sort of
Growth.
like
Yes, it
um
has to. It has to be growth driven.
right growth. Um, so I think like maybe one way to think of it is like what um separates a good mindset and a bad mindset is that like the bad mindset, like they both have like that sort of reflection on like what you've done in the past, but the bad mindset doesn't lead into that. It doesn't have that growth element where you then take
Hmm.
that um like reflection and sort of analyze like, okay, where can I go from here, right? um so I guess I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think I agree. I think that was yeah.
um
Oh my god.
okay, awesome. I guess I don't know, do you have any final words that you want to mention, any last things that you want to
Um.
tell everyone?
Oh, work hard. Try your best. You can do it.
Oh my god, let's go.
Let's go,
Let's
dude. Come
go.
on.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kablaze, for making it, first of all, despite your power outage. Um,
Oh, no problem. Sorry I couldn't make it at the actual scheduled time.
oh,
But
it's all good. All good. Yeah, those of you listening on YouTube, first of all, we appreciate you a lot. Thanks for making it to the end
yeah,
of the video.
thank you.
And if you want to support us, definitely the best thing you can do is like the video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot more than you might think. But other than that, if you want to get directly involved in these interviews and OC University as a whole, best thing to do is join our Discord server. That'll be linked in the description. Um, also, there have been some comments about getting these podcasts up on Spotify and other podcast audio streaming places. That is in the works. It is almost done, so look forward to that soon. Some of you might be listening on Spotify, so yeah, hello. We appreciate you no matter where you're listening. But yeah, thanks again, Kablaze, for joining. And yeah, if you want to check out the other interviews, definitely check out our YouTube channel and or Spotify profile. Not sure what it's actually called, but that is going to do it for now. Thanks again, Kablaze, for joining, and we will see you guys next time. Bye. Was that you saying bye?
I don't know what that was. Goodbye.